Back in November 2019, I saw the BMW F900XR at the EICMA show in Milan and thought it looked rather tasty. I'd been reasonably happy with the Honda CB500X I'd bought new 6 months earlier, but there were one or two aspects of the bike I wasn't wild about, and the lure of a shiny new BMW with its fancy gadgets proved hard to resist. So over Christmas I sold the 500X and ordered the 900XR. But was it a wise move? In this video I'll take you through what I like about the BMW, but also what I miss about the Honda, and try to answer the question, is the new bike worth twice the money of the one I had? Now at this stage you're probably thinking, why is he comparing such two dissimilar bikes? The BMW has twice the power and costs twice as much as the Honda. The BMW is far more road focused, whereas the Honda has some off-road pretensions, which can be further enhanced through the likes of Rally Raid. Well, that's true enough, but back in the day my marketing professors used to say, quite rightly, that everything is a competitor to everything else. If you want a holiday in Tahiti and a new kitchen, but can only afford one, then they are both competing against each other, despite being two completely different things. Thus, over the course of the second half of last year, I was looking at such ostensibly diverse bikes as the BMW R1250 GS, the Panigale Street Fighter and the Triumph Rocket. I have other bikes in my garage too, including a 9 horsepower scooter, a Monkey 125 and a Triumph Street Triple. So the 500X and the 900XR are, at least in my eyes, relatively analogous. Also, both are red and look a little bit similar, at least to the uninitiated. I'm sure, for example, if I'd chosen to keep quiet, my wife probably wouldn't have noticed I'd changed my bike. And my final reason for doing this video is that given that we've all been advised to stay indoors at the moment because of the impending mass extinction event that is coronavirus, I thought it would be a good opportunity to make a video comparing the two bikes. It's my channel and I can do what I want, so there. So I bought the Honda in the spring of last year, 2019, because it was so nice to ride. Super light clutch, comfortable riding position, soft seat, forgiving suspension. I immediately felt at ease with this bike, and indeed the more I rode it, the more I enjoyed it. I added a few accessories like the SW Motec handguards and some soft panniers, which, although the manufacturer claimed were designed for the bike, sat perilously close to the exhaust, so to be on the safe side I added a stick-on heat shield. I kept my eye on things and it seemed to be doing the job, although a few weeks after I sold the bike the new owner contacted me to say that the exhaust had burnt through the bag. Oops. I also fitted SW Motec's engine crash bars, which I was thankful for, as subsequently I dropped the bike twice. I've never dropped a bike before or since, and I would put this down to the Hondas being slightly top heavy. I noticed this particularly after filling up, so it could be something to do with the high position of the 17-litre tank, or to my ineptitude, of course. Certainly the BMW feels less top-heavy in comparison, though it does benefit from having only a 15-litre tank. There were really only two things that niggled me with the Honda and stopped me really loving it, and that was the lack of power and the vibrations through the handlebars above 5,000 revs. Now, while I get that many owners are perfectly happy with the bike's 47-48 horsepower, I'm afraid I was not. Power is, of course, relative, some might say subjective, but I have what I think might be a scientific or at least objective way of considering the question. If you never ever use full throttle, then yes, your bike probably has enough power for your needs. If, on the other hand, you twist the throttle round as far as the stop on a fairly regular basis, then I would suggest that, almost by definition, you need more power. As I mentioned, I also have a scooter which produces a miserable 9 horsepower, but I'm perfectly happy with that. On a scooter, throttle operation is basically all or nothing. I'm either idling at the traffic lights or on full throttle scooting around town, and that's fine. I've no problem with that philosophy, and indeed would venture to suggest that it's more fun riding an underpowered bike at full throttle than a ludicrously powerful bike at half throttle. And relatively speaking, 47 horsepower is a lot, or at least sufficient. Or so I thought. The problem was that for longer trips on the 500X, ones where I would take dual carriageways or motorways, something the comfortable ride definitely encouraged, I would quickly be reminded of the bike's limitations. Yes, of course, it can do 70-80 miles an hour, but should you need a quick burst of acceleration to overtake or get yourself out of danger, there really wasn't very much in reserve. Fine around town using it as a sort of giant comfortable scooter, but using it for long distances for me is not really on the cards. Now, I'm sure a lot of owners will disagree with me, but as I said, this is just my personal opinion. The BMW, seen here, solves this issue to my satisfaction, with a claimed 103 horsepower and even as much as 112 at the crank, according to Ride magazine, who dynoed it recently. There is ample power in most real-world riding situations. Do I occasionally use full throttle on the BMW? Yes, I do. So, applying my own theory, a few more horses would be nice, but only in a handful of instances, such as joining a motorway. I can honestly say I don't use full throttle any more than I do on my street triple, which is a lot more powerful, primarily because torque on the BMW is both more plentiful and available lower down in the rev range, as can be seen in this table. As you can see, compared to the Honda, the BMW produces twice the power and twice the torque at an identical point in the rev range. You can also see that while the Triumph is indeed plenty powerful, you really need to work the engine to get to the power. I've probably never taken it beyond about 8,500–9,000 revs, so I've never unleashed all the power, which I suppose is a bit of a shame. I'll doubtless come in for some stick here, but that's just the way I ride. I don't enjoy thrashing an engine to within an inch of its life. And of the three bikes, the BMW is definitely the easiest to ride normally. The second major issue I had with the Honda was the vibrations felt through the handlebars above about 5,000 revs, which made them a pretty constant feature of the bike on the motorway. Now, some suggested to me that this might be due to the engine crash guards that I'd fitted, but when I removed them, I didn't notice any difference. And when I mentioned the vibration problems to the dealer, he just said that I should ride through the vibration, suggesting perhaps that at 8,000 or 9,000 revs they would somehow disappear. Now, given my riding style, that just wasn't a satisfactory solution. For whatever reason, the vibrations were so bad on my particular bike that I often found myself taking my hands off the grips to flex my fingers in an attempt to somehow restore blood circulation. I could also feel the vibrations, admittedly to a lesser extent, through the seat, which would cause numbness in the groin on rides of more than an hour or so. If I'd kept the bike, I would probably have looked into some sort of rubber damping in the top clamp. Other less important bugbears with the Honda include the instrument cluster, which to me at least, with my aging eyesight, was nigh on illegible, particularly in bright sunshine, of which there is a lot here in Portugal. All the necessary information was displayed, but the current speed was about all I could manage to see clearly on the fly. The gorgeous 6.5-inch full-colour iPad-style dash on the BMW that you can see here just about came as a blessed relief, though another inch of real estate to bring it in line with the new Triumph Tiger screen would make it even nicer to use. I imagine this will be along in a couple of years. The suspension on the Honda is much more compliant than that on my BMW, which I ordered with the semi-active rear suspension, quite a firm setup. As such, it's more comfortable on shorter trips. However, despite my fears when first sitting on the church pew that BMW chose to use as a model for the XR seat, it is surprisingly comfortable on longer trips. The Honda's 19-inch front wheel, shod with mixed-use tyres as standard, means it's more suitable for light off-road duties like this. and there's plenty of scope for beefing it up further with the various mods and accessories offered by Rally Raid, for example. Now, I chose not to explore that particular avenue for two reasons. First of all, I'm not a particular fan of off-roading, having tried it admittedly for only a few miles. And secondly, I would still have been stuck with what I consider an underpowered engine. Now, I know enduro bikes make do with a lot less power, but I don't have a trailer and so have to ride on proper roads to get to where I want to go off-roading. And when I'm on proper roads, I prefer to have power in reserve. So, all things considered, have I made the right move? Is the F900X as good as it looked at the EICMA show? And crucially, is it better than my 2019 500X? The short answer is yes, in every quantifiable way: power, brakes, technology, comfort, grip, sex appeal, although that last point is subjective, I suppose. The BMW is the superior machine. Motorcycles need to fire my passion when I enter the garage. They have to make me feel good about riding them and owning them. The BMW gives me that feeling, where the 500X was more the faithful friend or reliable tool that got the job done. I feel that conclusion does need qualifying though, and before all you keyboard warriors begin hurling abuse, yes, I am well aware that the 900XR costs twice as much as the 500X, at least once it's been spec'd up with most of the options. So is it worth $14,000 to the Honda 7000? And the short rational answer to that question has to be no. No, it isn't twice the bike, it isn't twice as comfortable, twice as safe, twice as technological, or twice as good looking. And while it may be twice as powerful, it isn't twice as fast either. But then nothing is. It's the law of exponential cost. A Bentley will cost you 10 times the price of a Ford, but is it 10 times better? In every quantifiable way, probably not. But emotion is not quantifiable. The F900XR for me, maybe not for you, hits the sweet spot. The CB500X was just a tad too utilitarian, dare I say boring, while the Triumph Rocket I so nearly bought was going to be too much of a toy, a one-trick pony that would almost certainly have ended up being a rather expensive garage ornament. In any case, all this, I suppose, is largely immaterial, as the coronavirus means we're all being told to stay indoors for the foreseeable future, and while joyriding probably wouldn't get me thrown in prison, it would certainly be socially irresponsible of me at the moment. So this morning on went the old dust cover. Fingers crossed all will return to normal as soon as possible, so that we can get out and start enjoying roads like this again. I hope this video has at least helped you forget about the virus worries for 10 minutes or so, and as always, thanks for watching.